Hello everyone and welcome to my channel and welcome to this video. Today I will show you how I painted this cute little gnome, and for that I have used Sennelier watercolors, Scarlet lacquer, Carmine, sap green, yellow ochre, raw umber, raw sienna, burnt umber, Venetian red and Indanthrene blue. And also I have used white nights, some sepia. For the brushes, I'm using this Panart number 8 mop brush, Panart number 4 round brush, Raphael number 8 brush, and no name detail brush. So without further ado, let's get started. Sketch for this painting is available for download, and you just need to join my Patreon for free and you will have access to this sketch and a lot more sketches that I upload and post there regularly. So I have just picked up a little bit of the Scarlet lacquer and some Carmine mix, and I'm gonna start with painting the head. First I will be painting in that red, leaving just some of the tiny spots white for the highlights, and then I'm gonna rinse my brush and slightly touch those parts that I already painted red and move the paint into the next section, just having those beautiful nice bleeds. Afterwards, with mix of sepia and Indanthrene blue, I will just add a little bit of the shadows in the bottom part and at the edges. So right now you can see me again just touching the edge of the previous section in some parts, not all the way, and creating those beautiful red bleeds into the next section. That's the way I'm gonna paint the entire head, also leaving some spots again white for the highlights and a little bit of the interest, and adding some shadows and details with mix of sepia and Indanthrene blue. Also the bottom part of the head I do want to keep the darkest, so I'm gonna add the most pigment there, also making it look like it's curved and in the shadow. Now just picking up a little bit of the yellow ochre and starting to paint the nose. So I'm gonna start with yellow ochre, paint the entire nose, and then on top add a little bit of the raw umber mixed in with some Venetian red. And then over at the edge I will use a little bit of the sepia, and I am leaving the top part very light to make that nose look like it is three-dimensional. So right now just painting in the sleeves, the coat of my gnome, again using same red mix of Scarlet lacquer and Carmine, adding a little bit of the sepia for the shadows, and then with some sepia and a little bit of the sap green and red mix in it, I'm painting in the bottom part of the sleeve and also adding a little bit more of the sepia and a little bit more of that red mix to paint in the darkest shadows. Same colors I will be using also for the other sleeve, and the bottom part of the sleeve is going to be in the shadow, so here I'm using quite dark mix of sepia and Indanthrene blue. This video in a real time step-by-step tutorial you can also find on my Patreon, together with many more winter videos that I already did and much more to come in following in December and January. So if you'd like to check that out, I will put the link for my Patreon in the description box and you can just check it out. For the hands, first I've used a little bit of the yellow ochre and on top went with some burnt sienna over at the edges and a little bit of that red mix, just to add that blood color into the hands. While that dries, I'm gonna go and paint the beard. So I'm starting with a light mixture of burnt sienna and some yellow ochre, and then on top painting it with a light mix of sepia and indanthrene blue. So I'm gonna paint the hair in sections, or the beard, just as I would paint the hair. I'm not gonna paint every single and each hair of the beard, but I'm gonna paint sections, and also just underneath the nose. I do want to keep it the darkest because that's in a shadow from the nose. So now again with a mixture of yellow ochre and burnt sienna, I've added a little bit of the golden color into the beard, and then just going around the nose, adding dark mix of indanthrene blue and sepia. As I said, I do want to keep that part just underneath the head, around the nose, the darkest. So now with this detail brush, more detailed, I'm painting in again those sections, and then a little ribbon to tie the beard. Definitely something that you can skip. I don't really know why I added that, kind of thought it would be nice. So now with some sap green and a tiny bit of that red mixture, I'm painting in the coat. So I'm gonna use the same colors as I did for the sleeves, adding some burnt umber, for the part that will be in shadow from the beard also, and some mix of sepia and a little bit of the indanthrene blue. And this is a bit more saturated, same mix over the edges to create the shadows from the beard. Also the inside of the sleeve, I'm gonna paint in with the same color, blue, indanthrene blue, and some sepia, quite dark. Adding a little bit of the details again with that same mix. Painting in the shadow on the hand, but also this time I'm using more red in the shadow mixture, and just doing the details a little bit more shine to the nose with burnt sienna. And again with the mixture of the sepia, a little bit of the indanthrene blue and some red, painting in the details on the beard. Now the beard is fully dry, so I'm just gonna add a little bit more of the details, building up those layers. It will be a lot easier if you paint in layers than just to go all at once. It will just mix and blend. But if you do the layers, previous layer will dry and you will be able to do those sections. So you can see I'm starting with a very, very thin line using the tip of my brush, and then pressing a little bit harder using the belly and creating a thicker part of the line, and then finishing off again with the quite a thin line. So now I will add a couple of thinner lines and the pants for my gnome. I will paint in red, so again using same mixture of Scarlet, laquer and Carmine, and then on top adding some sepia. So also I decided to add a little bit of the yellow ochre for the highlight, but I will also with the tip of my brush lift up a little bit of the paint to create those highlight there. And burnt sienna a little bit of the Venetian red to paint in the boots, and then a little bit more of the details to the beard now that it again dried. Those are just finishing details, so I'm gonna paint them quite light, or thin, not light, they're quite dark, but thinner lines. And again, going over to the boots, just adding a new layer and shaping those boots and creases on it. And I do want the bottom part of the boot to be, I guess, darker, so I'm adding a little bit of the sepia here, and since the paper is wet, it will mix and blend. Mix of Indanthrene blue and sepia to paint in the floor or the surface that my gnome is sitting on, and a little bit of the sepia on top of that. And all of my lines around the gnome are crisp and sharp, but I did want the bottom part to be quite loose, so that's the part where I have mixed the background and my gnome, and it will bleed one into the other. So you can see me right now adding a little bit more of the, or a lot more of the sepia, and it will bleed into the floor and just blend those two subjects. And with a little bit of the Carmine, I'm gonna go over at the head also, add a little bit more of the details there, and just all together go around my gnome, and where I see fit, add a little bit more of the details. Just touch up on, add a bit more of the darker pigment where I think it's needed, because now that I've added layers to all parts of the gnome, I see that maybe some parts are looking not like finished or maybe too light, so I'm gonna add a bit more pigment where I think I would need. Also add a little bit more of the shape to the boots, shape them up. And for finishing touches, I will do a couple of more of the splatters. And with that, guys, we are done. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Maybe gonna give this a try. Remember, free sketch available, link in the description. And if you haven't still, please do check out my channel. I have lots of tutorials there. I'm sure you can find something for yourself. So please do subscribe to my channel. If you like this video, hit the like button, share it, and comment. And again, thank you so much for watching. Hope I'll see you next time. Bye!